So when we come to that bridge in 2027, if we get to that bridge, don't look at the persons, look to the ideas that they espouse. Are they promising a new Nigeria, a different way of doing things? Are they promising you citizenship? Are they dealing with the substance of your pains? Do they bear promise that suggests that we might have a turnaround in our country? That is what 2027 is about. It's not, I agree that our current political parties are next to useless. They are almost one and the same, almost without exception, if the truth be told. So I'm not really speaking to anything beyond ideas. And those ideas, if they coalesce and find resonance in your spirit, what happens thereafter is that ideas will bind all of us together. Those ideas are what bound the obedient movement. The obedient movement was in existence long before there was a Peter Obi presidential bid. The obedient movement was, what you call the obedient movement today encompasses a whole lot of people who are in the NSAS movement, a whole lot of people who are in, say, like, enough is enough, a whole lot of people who, everybody who desired change in Nigeria became part and parcel of the obedient movement. And that had nothing to do with the person of Peter Obi. It was the promise of change that he embodies. That was what we all coalesced around. It's not about a party. That's why someone like me was very careful to explain from the beginning that I am not a member of the Labour Party. I spoke for Peter Obi. I supported Peter Obi. I still support him today because of the ideals that he represents. He's not an angel. None of us are. Movements are about common ideas. To restructure Nigeria is a highly desirable idea, and it's always been the lodestone of my own arguments in the Nigerian political space. But I have noticed that we've come to a point where we would have to make those ideas political, which means that somebody must stand behind those ideas and make those ideas the central plank of political engagement. In a situation where, one, the NLC is lost, organized labor is completely compromised as at today, the civil society organizations, they've been lost long before the emergence of Jaguda. But certainly since around 2011 and their misadventure at Ojota, when they found common purpose with the AC, that's the Action Congress of Tinubu, who was more or less the sole bankroller of the civil rights movement in Nigeria when he was still forming opposition to the PDP. Since that time, what we find is that there has been a fragmentation of Nigerian opposition movement, and it's been almost impossible to find common purpose. So I'm not too sure if it is possible to galvanize sufficient support for a boycott of the 2027 elections whilst we are demanding for a restructuring of Nigeria. But be sure of one thing, I support the idea, but at the end of the day, I'm a realist. I guess age and time forces a lot of realism on us. Now, when you now look at all of these and then you ask yourself, what then is hopelessness? It is having no expectation of good or success. And that is what Nigeria demands of us. It says that we shouldn't hope. Chief Bola Ige, more than any other person, even defines it succinctly. He says, blessed are those who do not hope, for they shall not be disappointed. That was what Chief Bola Ige said about hope. But hope we must, because it is the basis for human existence at any appreciable or intellectual level. Without hope, we're lost. Nigeria says we shouldn't hope. And there are so many evidences and bases for being for despairing and having no hope in Nigeria. Look, INEC promised us hope. The legislators passed the Electoral Act, Amendment Act of, I think, 2022. And it says, they promised us. You see, that's the promise. Hope and promise, they work hand in hand. They promised. They said, oh, electoral results will be transmitted from the polling unit level. And this hope was backed up by a promise made by the fraudulent Yakubu. He promised us, he rekindled our hope, and we started hoping against hope that he will keep his promise. You remember what happened when he broke his promise? Right when everybody was sleeping, Yakubu came out and said, go to court. Hopeless Supreme Court reinforced the hopelessness of the PEPT. That's the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. The Supreme Court reinforced it. It became even more hopeless than the hopeless PEPT. The last hope of the common man proved itself to be completely hopeless. That is the Nigerian judiciary. It made people lose hope in the system. A lot of people left Nigeria after the 2023 election. I know a few, because they couldn't find any peaceful way out of the cul-de-sac into which we've been locked. They realized that it didn't matter any longer what the will of the people might be, and they left. They voted with their feet. Largely members of the Nigerian middle class. They sold their substance in Nigeria, relocated to everywhere. Australia, New Zealand, Canada. They left. They left because the situation had become so hopeless. The person who gained power through the destruction of our hope has done nothing to restore hope or to even give the illusion of hope. If anything, he has reinforced just how hopeless the situation has become. The first word that came out of his mouth at his inauguration, subsidy is gone. We know today that the subsidy that he says is gone is still being paid under the table without any hint of probity. We also know that our judiciary is not only useless, but it is accompanied by a most useless legislator who does not even understand his oversight functions or his job as the purse keeper of the Commonwealth. It is more interested in having prayers sent to his inboxes. So Jaguda came into power, and what has happened? Brazen, unbridled stealing. In the same country where the National Security Advisor is still ensconced in his office, in spite of the fact that somebody who was in detention in his facility not only left detention, got into a private jet, and actually flew out of the country. In this country, and we are busy, very busy, applauding the imprisonment of Bobrisky. That is the extent of the hopelessness of our situation. Somebody who calls himself the Minister of Works actually found the grace to stand in the public space to be justifying how they can be spending 3 billion for every kilometer of road. Are they paving it with gold? There is an intercontinental, is it a continental highway being constructed from Cairo to Cape Town that is only marginally more expensive than the road we are building to Calabar. The same country that has no money to fund education, has no money to fund healthcare, is spending 3 billion per kilometer. A whole lot of people are going to end up having their livelihood destroyed because of the greed and avarice of the commander-in-chief. Terrorism has become normal. The Minister of Defense was said to be the one taking food to terrorists. And this is not engaging the attention of those who should be in the forefront of holding government to account. It is Peter Obi's borehole that is engaging their attention. Impunity has been licensed to the point where people are brazenly in daylight mining mineral resources up and down the length of Nigeria. And what happened in Okwama? It's very simple. The government licensed impunity to the point where Tom Polo and his people are in open rebellion against the sovereignty of the state, or licensing the state to fight its private wars. And then Okwama happened. And in a democracy, pressmen are excluded from the panel of inquiry. They cannot even report on it. And this is a democracy. One thing I need us all to understand is this. There is one thing over which none of us have any control, and that is the passage of time. When I see Obasanjo living with his regrets today, I laugh, because his is a story that should resonate in the spirit of all who have any brain left in their heads. Time will come and it will pass. Jaguda's time will pass. Buhari's time came and it passed. We survived him. Nigeria survived him. Jaguda's time will pass. And when that time has passed, what would remain are chronicles of what we did during those seasons. It is not done, and I've not found it anywhere in history, that evil won. Evil never wins. Maybe for a season it might appear to succeed, but eventually evil will lose. This season will pass. Those who sold their soul and found the peace of the graveyard and kept quiet whilst Nigeria is destroyed, history will remember all of you. The words we speak today will live beyond our season. Retain your hope, because when all of this is gone, hope will remain. It is all we have. It is what makes us human. The ability to look to tomorrow with expectation of something better. It is all we have, and we will keep the hope.